Welcome to another edition of Radio Friends. Again, I'm Steve Parker, all the way from Berlin, Connecticut, and this is our show for May 17th of 2024, and people are already signing on board, and we've got John Leslie is here from Talking About Radio. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning.
Hey, John.
Pleasure to be here again.
Where are you coming to us from? Where do you live?
Winter Haven, Florida.
All right, thanks. Sandy Beach up in Buffalo. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning. I'd rather be in Winter Haven, Florida, to be honest with you. But hello, welcome to everybody.
Sandy's our special guest today. He's going to be joining us in a few minutes to chat a bit about his career. Tracy Carmen, the Jingle King. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Steve. I'm from beautiful Longmeadow, Mass. Still recovering from laryngitis, but at least I can be heard today, if not seen, you know?
Like your flag, Tracy. Like your flag.
Thank you. I was going to put the big giant I support Israel thing behind me. I said, that's overdoing it. Thought that would be overdoing it, but thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Ron.
And that's Ron Pell, all the way from, I didn't know it was actually Cheshire, Connecticut.
It's the Shire, as we call it.
I was actually watching something on TV about the best pizzas all over the place, and Cheshire was the first pizza place they mentioned. Really? I don't know the name of the place. I forgot it now. Bring your camera down just a little bit. I'm seeing a little bit too much of your ceiling there, Ron.
Cheshire is the home of the mediocre pizza place.
Okay.
There must be 10 mediocre pizza places here. A couple of good ones, but I'd be interested to know which one you're talking about.
Okay. Anyway. Bob Craig, are you still in Philly?
I still am. Still sitting here. Yeah.
Waiting for next week.
Waiting for next week.
Dave Overson is back in Connecticut. Morning, Dave.
Morning. It's cold. I want to be where it's warm.
It's cold.
I
what are you
can't
talking
take
about?
it anymore. It's cold. It's cold for me. It's 60. I want to be back in Port St. Lucie. Here I am stuck in my trailer, my camper.
And where are you? What part of Connecticut?
From Griswold, Connecticut. We're coming from the Countryside RV Campground in Griswold, Connecticut. And hopefully next week I can be outside and be a little warmer.
Dave, it's not cold. I was outside for an hour.
I'm freezing. Ron, I'm freezing. I got Florida blood in me. What are you talking about? You know?
I don't know.
Speaking of Florida blood, Bob Marks just joined us.
Hiya.
Hey, Bob. Let's see. We've got Russ Oasis. Morning, Russ. Where are you coming to us?
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Yep, here in Florida, but heading up to Cape Cod in 2 weeks.
All right. Good to have you back up here. Let's see. John Landry. John, are you still down in Marlborough, Connecticut?
I think he's out of the room at the moment.
John is East Hampton.
Oh, East Hampton.
John Landry
Middletown, Connecticut.
He's gone to all those towns since we started the program.
Yeah.
And I do as we roll into the show, of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to the loss that we had this week.
Dick Summer
and Dick Summer, and we had some wonderful emails. I want to thank everybody that sent notes.
Also, if I may chime in, Steve, in 3 days it'll be the first anniversary of the passing of Dick McDonough.
Are you kidding me?
Wow. Is that
Yeah, May 20th.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
May 20th.
Wow.
that long.
Another another terrible loss.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It looks like Jack Lawrence just joined us. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Steve. How you doing? We're here in Boston.
Good to see you. All right. Yep. So, yeah, it's amazing, but we've always said that about Radio Friends. Again, it's nice to keep the lines open and be able to mark things like that. And we do know that Dick had been doing some recording just recently, within days ago, with Clark Smith, who had known him forever. Pete Salant is on the road, so he's not with us today. We don't know who may pop in, but our guest, who is one of the guys who came in from Buffalo, and that's Sandy Beach, who has a career that just spans through everything. And we've been trying to get Sandy to be part of the show for a while, and called him the other day, and it was simple as him saying, yes, where do I go? What do I do? So good morning, Sandy. I think the gang can't wait to catch up with you. Where are you at?
Oh, well, I'm in Buffalo with
Yep.
Stormy. My wife Stormy, and I are here enjoying the broadcast so far. So far, so good.
So, Sandy, give us the. I mean, reading about you goes on and on and on. So, how did it all start, Sandy?
Well, first of all, I was a DRC from 1965 to 1968. And at that time, it was not easy to get into DRC because they had a lot of talent there. And there had to be something opening up in order for you to move in there. And I found out the hard way how difficult it was. First of all, after the interview with Charlie Parker, it went well. He calls Paul Repp into the meeting. Paul Repp is an engineer. He says, "Okay, take him with you." The engineer took me to a recording studio, and all that was in there was a microphone. That's it, okay? And I said, "What am I supposed to do with this?" They said, "Do a show." Do a show, okay? With usually when people do an air check, they doctor it up a little bit. So it's the best of you know who, and it took 8 hours to get 8 minutes. But with this, you were there. And you had to do it standing up in one shot, and it worked out well. Charlie Parker turned out to be such a glowing light for me because he really respected talent. Because in most radio stations, the respect goes towards sales because sales is attached to money. However, talent works very hard and deserves, I think, more pluses than it gets. And so there it was. I was on with how about this, Dick Robinson, who turned out to be like my closest friend. He was my best man at the wedding. I don't regret him doing that. But he was there. Ron Landry, Jim Nettleton, Diamond Jim, Joey, of course, Joey Reynolds, Long John Wade, and Don Wade. So it was a packed full of talent radio station, and it's a place you wanted to be.
And you but you also had mentioned earlier that your name isn't and wasn't Sandy Beach, and of course, when you told us about that, that was funny because I think you really are probably the first Sandy Beach in the business.
Yeah, there was a Sandy Beach. I was the first one, starting in 1965. But there was one who worked in Florida, I think. And every once in a while, I would get an "Are you the guy?" Boom, 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 and that was that. But I stuck with it once I chose it. I did not want to be Bradley Field, as your father had given me an option.
But there was a Bradley Field on DRC.
It's been that way for 60 years. So I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, they did. At one point, he did get a guy and named him Bradley Field, and then another Brad Field came into the market and was doing the weather for a while. But yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He did get his Bradley Field at DRC, and of course, along with Kent Clark because he looked like Clark Kent, And as I've said this before, when I finally had the opportunity to go part-time on the air, and I was all excited, and I said to my dad, I said, "So what do you think I should use for a radio name?" And he said, "I gave it to you when you were born." I'm like, "Okay." And that's what.
Well, one of the other Bradley Fields is Ken Sasso, and Kenny and I both had good books one time. We decided, let's go out and get new cars. So I got a Corvette, Chevy Corvette, and he got a Jag XKE. Now, he so guarded that XKE that he did mornings on FM, and while I was doing mornings on AM. Pardon me, but he was very zealously guarding his car. So one morning he gets up at about 4, because normally he got up at like 5, okay? 4, he looks out the window, his car is there, all well with the world. And then when he got ready, about an hour later, the car was gone. It was stolen. He called me because I was on the air. And so I said on the air, don't do anything, but this car has been stolen. I said, and if if you've seen it or anything like that, give me a call. So I went on the air with it, but we never did get it. They finally found it a couple of weeks later, cut up into pieces with a torch. But it's an advantage of being on in the mornings is you get to directly see and hear all the people doing wrong things.
Oh, I know with my dad a couple times they took his car. It was DRC3 was his license plate, and they immediately go on the air. And it usually would be at night, so there'd be kids driving it, and they'd have the radio on, and, and they'd hear that they were looking for the car, and they get out of the car quickly. But yeah, that was one of those ways you could use it. So Sandy, why did you split? Why did you go to Buffalo from there? How did you leave?
Charlie Parker, as I said, at DRC, was the most creative guy that I've ever worked for. And Jeff Kay was extremely creative and talented too. And the reason I did it was because of Joey Reynolds. I heard Joey Reynolds one time when I was working in Great Barrington, okay? And I heard him do a couple of segments, and I thought, wow, I've never heard anybody better than this guy. Simply because in those days, the music, you didn't have a lot of time to catch your breath. In other words, the songs were 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, something like that. And you had to come up with shtick. This wasn't 10 in a row. This was none of that stuff. This was something funny. You had to do or say something funny every 2.5 minutes. And he was a master at it. And so because of the coverage of WKBW and the fact that Joey Reynolds had been there, I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no. And Jeff Kay turned out to be a mentor. Those are the two names, whenever I'm asked, those are the two names that I always mention. Your father, Steve, and Joey Reynolds.
No, thank you. I think at this point in time, Dave, insert here. People will hear the infamous Sandy Beach laugh, and here it is. Let's just Dave drop the needle on that one for us. Okay, that was good, Dave. I figured you would still have it there. Hey, so how did the whole laugh thing start, Sandy? Where did that?
I can tell you where it started. It started at DRC. I had a contest winner whose name, I'll tell you at the end of this, whose name I couldn't stop laughing. It's not good to laugh at your listeners' names. His name was Abner Nelms. That's right, Abner Nelms. I hope Abner's still alive, but if he isn't, I'm okay with that too, because it's something to really hang your hat on. And that laugh you have has been all over the country. It's I called Joey once on the air when he was in New York, and they played it while I was waiting to talk to him. I've heard it in California. It's been all over the place because people like a good laugh, and it was legitimate. It was not phony.
And a very contagious laugh too. As soon as you hear that, you get going. It gets you rolling. But to break, how did you ever pull out of it? Because that laugh, if you played it all the way through, that laugh went for a long time. How'd you compose yourself?
It was a long laugh, but I learned to concentrate on something else, and you can get by it. But the laugh is a signature, the laugh and the name. But we had other signature people at DRC, and one of them was Bertha Porter. Mm-hmm. Bertha Porter was our music director, and very well known in the record industry and very well respected, because the songs that we play get racked by the people that rack pop music, and that made it very, very important. But Bertha had a couple of habits that I have to tell you about. First of all, we all got a music sheet. Everybody got a music sheet. And if you dared not play the songs exactly as they were on that sheet, you were in trouble. Now, occasionally, some people, like myself, did dare to play something else. And one time she came in, and I swear to you, I think Dick Robinson was in the studio at the time. As I'm playing the song that wasn't on the sheet, she started beating me live on my head by her purse while I'm trying to talk. And it was like, well, hey, guess who's in charge of the music? I may do the jokes, but she does the music. And then one time I was I was at a party. One of the labels had a party for one of the acts, and they had good looking food there. I went with Bertha. Okay, we walk in together, and she spies the shrimp, and she likes shrimp, and she didn't go over and bring some shrimp to the table. She brought a chair to the table, sat in front of the table, and ate all the shrimp, all of it. And I kind of like hid in the background. But one time we really got her. The station manager's son was working Saturday morning, and so was I. And she was cooking. There was a kitchen at DRC on Blue Hills where they used to cook. And when she cooked stews and stuff like that. And if you didn't like it, you could, the smell permeated the entire building. You had to live with it. So I'm doing the morning show on Saturday morning. Bertha's there, and the manager's son is doing some work. And all of a sudden, I see Bertha's going back to the kitchen. She's going to put something in and let it settle. Okay. And I did not want to have to smell it all morning. So as soon as she went back to where she did the music, what I did is I got the manager's son to help me out. I went to Charlie Parker's office, okay? And we used to be known as Ear Witness News. And he had a big wax ear on his desk, a big one, okay, size of your hand. And I took the wax ear and I put it in the stew, figuring when Bertha goes to start to eat the soup, or whatever she was cooking to smell like that, she would see it, laugh, and that would be the end of it, right? Okay, that was about 8 o'clock. Just as I'm going off the air at 10 o'clock, he and I go down to see how the stew is coming along. It wasn't there anymore. The wax ear melted into the stew, and she ate it. She ate it. And he said, we've got to tell her about the ear. I said, no, I'm not telling her. I see what she did just for beating me, just for playing the wrong song. But she lived, good news. She lived. And I think from then on, she had her eye open on the kitchen.
Oh my God.
She probably was able to hear better.
Hey, Dick Galt just joined us from Westport. Good morning, Dick. How you doing?
Oh, good morning, everybody. I'm fine. I feel kind of bad. I sent my thoughts out on Dick Summer earlier last week, and every one of your email programs rejected it for some reason. So I just sent it out from another one of my email addresses. I don't know if he's been mentioned yet, but he was certainly somebody. He was certainly one of the finest. But good morning, all. I can't stay very long, but I wanted to jump in and say hi and be part of the group.
Dick, is your camera on?
It
Your
is
camera
here.
isn't on.
I just got it, Dick.
Oh, I see. I should be doing one of these.
There you go.
Okay, here I am.
Your email just came in.
Oh, okay, so then it worked. Okay, I used to listen to Dick in Detroit in the 60s at night on Skip every single night. BZ had basically a straight hard line right into Detroit at night. And so I used to sit in my car and listen to his show at night. And then it was a real honor and pleasure to meet him when he came to New York. And then we once, I don't know if you remember, Ron, but we pitched him to do a podcast.
I do remember that, Dick.
Yeah.
Dick, I do. Yeah.
Didn't work out, but I mean, we had
Yeah.
a very good discussion. And it's a little overcast here. So they put the geodesic dome back up so that we don't have any more rain than we really feel that we pay for in our taxes.
I noticed that Chuck Martin, Terry Woods has joined us. And I just want to say this. If Charlie ever tried to accuse any of you guys of breaking the dune buggy, it was Terry Woods.
Listen, at least I'm man enough to own up to it. So what the hell are you talking about? And I want to tell you, and I want to tell you something about this guy down here, Steve. Your father did. First off, this guy comes in from Boston. He's a young student taking up law enforcement in some college in Boston. He thinks he's a big shot. He comes down and he's got this long ass hair, hippie as hippie could be.
Oh, you're talking about Oasis, huh?
Yeah, I am. And your father, he goes to your father and he's saying, "Oh, I got this thing. Paul McCartney is dead. I've got this secret. And I know how it's a secret. I took some acid last night and it gave me a trip back. And I know exactly what Paul McCartney and how he's dead and why." Your father right away knew that this guy was a squirrel and he didn't have all his, he was about 4 cans short of a 6-pack. And so your father turns him on to me, and he did. He said, "Terry," he says, "see what this guy is on the level and everything." So I get him, and he gives me all this stuff. And of course, he's trying to give me this acid stuff. And I said, "Look, you young college kids, I don't need that crap. I have my DRC music I'm playing here."
Yeah, right.
Long story short, at the end of it, he asked me, "I can't get back to Boston. I got to go to college. Can you lend me some money?" I gave this guy $20. And to this day, I haven't seen a penny of it.
I just want to tell you, if any of you guys have followed him, followed Terry Woods on social media, you know that I loaned him $20 at NHC in New Haven. We were both at NHC. I loaned him the $20 and never got it back.
You see that? Hey guys, the acid is still working in this guy down here. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Well, cheap as cheap can be. And your father turned him on to me, Steve.
The real reason was Dick Corson walked by, saw me with the long hair and said, "Charlie, can I speak to you for a minute?" Charlie was completely engrossed in what I was telling him. Charlie goes out with Dick Corson for a minute. Charlie comes back and goes, "I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave. Hey, Terry, would you speak to Russ and see what this is about?" So basically, it was Dick Corson that kicked me out.
Yeah. But about that dune buggy, man, I'll tell you, that's a whole story for another day. That's Bill St. James. Bill Hart. Who was he at DRC? I broke him in too in the morning. Yeah, on Sunday morning, I broke him in. Yeah. So him and I were out with the dune buggy. I think we had a race up in I forget, Lime Rock, Connecticut. So we go up there and we got the DRC dune buggy, and I made a bad move and I hit that. And Hart was he was beside himself. He said, "Oh, Corson's going to kill. If I'm in the dune buggy, he's going to fire me," and this and that. I took the heat for it. But yes, I did. And, and the week before, Robinson had it. You know that picture with Dick on the DRC? Yep. Yeah, so I ruined the dune buggy.
Well, I tell you, it was Little D. And I think after Little D had its run with just about everybody, I think I finally added my touch and set it on fire in my driveway.
Did you see? Is that what happened to it?
What happened was I was a kid and I wanted to sit in the dune buggy, and I don't know why, but I wanted to stretch my legs out a little bit. Well, I guess somehow when I moved the seat, it hit the wires or something, and that Dad was not happy. It was a fire and then full of foam from the fire department in New England. But I wouldn't be surprised if they resurrected it though, and they did get it back to you. But I do know that was my experience with it. Dad brought it home and I set it on fire.
But listen, by the end of this session today, I hope you guys will humiliate this Russ Oasis guy.
Hey, I just want to say that when I first met Chuck Martin or Terry Woods back in 1968, 69, he still looked as old as he does now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wish you guys would humiliate him to give me my $20 back. You first off, this guy's a multi-billionaire. He doesn't know what the hell to do with this money. He's got houses on Martha's Vineyard, a big mansion down in Miami, and I'm just a poor retired radio guy. I have no money at all.
Yeah.
Get this guy to give me my $20 back. He's got it.
The voice of Harley Davidson is broke. I'm sorry.
Well, that $20 would be worth about 18,000 today.
Exactly.
Well, and it's funny
and leave my Harley Davidson account alone. Well, I don't get much money from them anymore because they're going down the shitter. So, but anyway, I had a good 20-year run with them.
Well, I got to tell you, when you look around the people that we have with us so far, I think that Jim Harrington just came in from Pittsburgh. Jim, you still with us?
Yes, I am enjoying every moment of it. It's an exciting conversation. I'm thinking of sending $20 to Terry Woods.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Hey, Jim,
send me your address.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll start a fund.
I was going to say, how about a GoFundMe? We'll start a GoFundMe.
Terry needs 20.
Yeah, there you go. See, there's a guy who sticks up for me. We started DRC on the same day, Jim and I. See, he cares about me.
Do I owe you any money, Terry? I'm just
no, Jim. You've always been right on score. You gave me back everything I ever gave you, Jim. I appreciate that. That's why I love you, brother.
Thank you, buddy.
But that Oasis guy, I got to tell you something. He wipes his A with $20 bills. He could give me one of them. Unscented.
Lee Gordon. Hey, Lee, were you around when Sandy Beach was on the air?
I was not, but I occasionally would hear him from Buffalo because I'd have my little radio tuned into Joey Reynolds. And I think he might have also been, I was in New Hampshire, and I would at night I would tweak a table model radio to try to pull in WKBW.
Guy was a legend in Buffalo.
So I never got to hear Sandy on DRC. No.
No, I think Sandy.
Sandy, did you work with Don Burns up in Buffalo?
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, Don Burns was in college, and he hired me when I was at DRC to do a dance, and he was such a personality that when I got up to KB a couple of years later, I recommended him to Jeff Kay, and he hired him. And Burns was at KB for a good long run, and I considered him one of the best people I've ever worked with.
Oh, he was. He went to my wedding 1,000 years ago. He was a good guy.
The other side of I hear you guys talking about when you joined DRC. I can tell you when one guy left DRC, and this was funny. Dick Buckley owned DRC at the time. Okay. And he would come in regularly and meet with Charlie and meet with the sales manager, whatever. But there was this disc jockey on that Dick Buckley did not like. And it's very unusual that the owner get involved with a talent thing. But he said to Charlie, fire him. And Charlie said, I don't want to fire him. I like him. He's doing a good job. He said, fire him. And Buckley left the building. Okay. Next time Buckley comes back, this jock is still there. And he says, I told you to fire him. Well, Charlie was the guts of DRC, and everybody knew it. So he still didn't fire him. Okay. And then one day, the jock comes into all of us. We're in the jock's lounge, and he said, great news. I got a job in Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia was a number 4 market at the time. So this is great. So he didn't get fired. He went to Philadelphia, except for one small thing. Dick Buckley bought the station he went to in Philadelphia and fired him there.
Oh, that's bad luck.
Part of the court case today going on with what's his name, Cohen. Yeah, I think that kind of like the same deal.
Yeah, that was.
Sandy, I got a question
luck.
for you. Sandy, a question for you. Did you
Sure.
escape the wrath of Dick Corson?
I know Corson's name, but I don't know Corson.
So you were gone before he came there. You were up to Buffalo before he came. Didn't he come in like 68, 69?
Yeah, I was there 68 to 74.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about the DRC.
Yeah, DRC 68 to no. Okay. 68 to 74 was KB. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, 3 years before that.
Oh, okay. Because Steve, didn't he come around 68, 69?
I think it was,
Yes.
and I think he probably did. Well, wait a minute. You were on the air with Robinson. What years were you on the air with Robinson?
I was 65 to 68 were the times I was at DRC.
Yeah, so I think Corson got there maybe around 68. So you probably missed because I know he offered to fly you out of town. You guys had an opportunity and you met him there. Wasn't he going to give you a ride in his airplane?
I don't
With the 38, it was out.
Couldn't resist. No, and I think when you mentioned Dick Buckley.
I think you just channeled Charlie.
Yes, you mentioned Dick Buckley, and that was Rick's dad. And for the people who didn't get a chance to meet Richard Dimes Buckley, he was the real deal, and he was somebody that hired guys for what they did, and he let them do what they did, and just massive difference between him.
You ever hear that story about? Yeah, you don't often hear stories about owners. Did you ever hear that story about Buckley and the raisins at the hotel, the big hotel? I'm trying to think of what the name of that was.
Sonesta?
The Americana. Americana was called the Americana at first.
Then it
was
was,
changed to Sonesta.
So he brings. It was right in the middle of town. I know that. So Buckley comes in, and because we had a really good book, decides to take the whole kit and caboodle of the staff out to lunch. All right. Well, this is a big deal for us. I mean, going out to lunch with the owner, that's fabulous. All right. And everybody orders, everybody eats and whatever. Now it's time for dessert. And everybody orders what they like, except we get to Buckley, and he said that I'd like some raisin pudding. And the waitress says, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't have raisin pudding." Then he named another thing with raisins. He said, "Give me some raisin." Boom, boom. "Sorry, we have no raisins." He got so ticked off that there were no raisins in the entire hotel. He sent somebody out to buy some. But I guess if you own the radio station, you can send somebody out to buy your raisins.
Unbelievable. We got a couple of other guys that just joined us. Dave Nagel, who was with the station, DRC and HCN and ICH and a bunch of other ones. And Dave, where are you coming from today?
Scenic Plainville, in the palatial basement rec room of our humble commode. So.
and Clark Smith. Clark has got a history and a half, but he was probably most recently one of the last folks to experience the talent of Dick Summer. Clark, obviously the passing is tough on you. What was Dick like during those last few times you got to meet with him?
He was sharp as a tack. His wit was there. He constantly had great sayings, a sense of humor. It was a pleasure to be with. We last had breakfast about, 4 weeks ago, before he moved with his wife to an assisted living in Newburyport. And we communicated since then, but he told me that the amount of boxes that were in the new apartment were just staggering. And he was admitted to the hospital last Sunday, and Tuesday morning at 4 a.m., he passed quietly from what they say is pneumonia. Dick used a walker, but he was mentally sharp and terrific. and he did voices for me as recently as Valentine's Day on 1220watx.com. Just a great man. And, you know, we meet a lot of wonderful people in broadcasting, but to have the special friends that really take time to care and communicate and be real is very special. And Dick was a very, very special man.
And it seems loyal to his friends too, because he worked everywhere. You know, he worked at some of the biggest stations that ever existed, but no matter what, he found time to do voice work for his friends. And I know he did stuff for DRC and right up until doing stuff with you. I mean, it was always about he seemed to have a tremendous loyalty to everyone he ever met.
Steve, I met him. You would think I would have met him at BZ, but I met him at DRC. He came in to see your dad. And I guess they were going to go to lunch, and you know, Charlie introduced me to him. Of course, I was a kid, and I grew up listening to the guy, and I was starstruck. You know, this was Dick Summer. Dick Summer. You know, because I can still hear his style and his delivery, and geez, I don't think I said anything that was intelligent, but then again, that was standard. It's
we first met at WBZ, excuse me, in the summer of '71. I was the operations manager, and we put together the first Grease weekend that had a lot of all-stars, and including Wolfman Jack. And you know, Dick was there. And then later on, as I became a broadcast advisor, the nicer way of not using the C word, we worked together at WPIX-FM in New York. I was there, and Marvin Seller said, you know, this Dick Summer guy, I think we can get him. I said, absolutely. So we put him on from following Jack Spector, like 1 to 4 in the afternoon or something like that. But we remained friends, and then he moved to Drake at Mass, which is only about 25 minutes from where I live. So we had quite a monthly meetings. He called it the Radio Rascals. Doug Steffen, the talk show host, was there. Warren Shaw's restaurant. Warren was a farm director and had a Salvation Army show on WCAP for many years. So it was, the atmosphere was very nice at the celebration of his life. There were no tears. Everybody was upbeat. Many of his children were there. A few radio folks. John Garabedian was there. I missed seeing, oh gosh, brain cramp.
Well, I know that one.
He's normally here. He used to own 1220. He's now doing psychology down south. Forgive me for forgetting his name.
Pete Salant.
Pete Salant.
Pete Salant was brought up, and there was some talk about a tape called 9.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Now wait a minute. Now
I think Russ knows something about that.
John Leslie's got that too.
I've got the master of it here.
Well, didn't Russ? Weren't you involved in that?
Russ, famous Russ was one of the people, and Dick Salant was another, and I forget the third one, but John Garabedian and Dana Popolo were there, and Dana was pretty excited about it.
Yeah, Randy West
was in the 9 tape.
Yeah, and Russ DeBello.
Yeah, we should, that's a good time.
Got the wrong Russ.
Just a quick mention here, for those of you who weren't here last week, and we had J-Bo Jones on with us from the 70s on 7 and a lot of other gigs he had, and he just it was, as he said, he was part of the 7% Let Go in Boston, but he connected with John Leslie, and they had quite a chat, and we're going to hopefully connect Sandy with John. Sandy, if you get a chance, go to, John, go to Talking About Radio, check out the podcast, and he's got everything there. John, because we know a lot of people listen to this, there's certain people on your hit list, John, that you're still trying to get a hold of to interview at your place.
Boy, I'm running out. I've done 147 of them. And it's a who's who in broadcasting. I have not done Cousin Brucey. I did one with a guy who calls himself Cruisin' Bruce. And when I posted that, everybody read it as Cousin Brucey, and they're all diving in to hear Cousin Brucey, and it's actually Cruisin' Bruce who does a car show. I've had some of you guys on. I had Sip was on with me, and anybody who wants to hear the podcast, we are the #1 return on all search engines when you enter the phrase "talking about radio." Google, Yahoo, just put in "talking about radio." All of the podcasts are the first returns. I have a real quick story about Dick Summer. I never met him, and this was a long time ago, so I can't remember all of the names, I don't think. And some of you guys know the inner workings of it better than I do with Westinghouse and so on. But I had just moved to WFBL in Syracuse, and I got a call from a guy, I believe his name was Mike Joseph. And
Hot
he
hits.
What's that?
Hot hits, Mike Joseph, yeah.
Yeah, but he was also a headhunter of sorts, wasn't he? Or somehow.
He was a consultant after ABC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
He was a program director at WABC and then became a consultant.
Did he do some time at TICFM also?
Yes, yeah, he had the Joseph format. That was the very first hot hit station.
It was the hot hits format.
I had just started at WFBL. I hadn't unpacked the boxes yet. My daughter was still pissed at me for moving and taking her out of school. And I got this call, and they said, I was on the air. And he said, have you heard that Dick Summer is leaving WBZ? And I said, I guess I've heard it. I'm not in that circle, so I don't know. And the guy said, would you be interested in being considered to replace him on WBZ? And I immediately said no. Said no. Said I'm on a new job. I just started it, and I have no desire to work nights. And so that was the end of that. And then I thought to myself afterwards, well, maybe I acted too fast. But then there were probably 900 guys that got that same call. But just to have been asked was kind of cool.
And we want to thank you too, John, because very modestly you said before we started recording today that you didn't get that many hits on the program that you recorded of all of us together last week when we both recorded Radio Friends together. So John says, well, we didn't get that many. You didn't get that many hits. John, tell us how many modestly you got.
It was in it was like, what did I tell you? 7,000? 7,000. Yeah.
We'll take it.
I'm used to like 12,000 per
I
episode.
just want to mention one more thing about Dick Summer. I sent an email around to you about my experience with him. I had been at BZ in '63 as a studio engineer, and I board op for him for maybe a couple of weeks at the time that I was there. Keep in mind about the program. First of all, these people were in between every record, which Sandy pointed out earlier were about 2.5 to 3 minutes long. Running his own turntables, all we did on the board was flip the off switch and run the levels. He was in between every record, 6 hours, 6 nights a week, 11:30 until 5:30 in the morning. Plus, had to do his own newscast as well. And to this day, it just boggles the mind. In this day of 4 or 5 minute tracks with singles, and let alone progressive rock and rock, which are a little bit more extensive in time, I had to wear and tear on somebody doing this. But 6 nights a week, all night, having I think clock about 4, 5, 6 kids at the time. Like when he was in his late 20s, how did you get to sleep during the daytime? I mean, this was had to be quite a strain on him. But that was truly a great staff at BZ at that time. And all these guys are gone. Dick was the last one. It was Jeff Kay, Jay Dunn, Dave Maynard, Carl DeSuze, Bruce Bradley. It was strictly an A+ radio station all the way.
Was Larry?
I think one of the Boston papers actually had photos of all the guys from BZ that were there with Dick, and it's like, okay, he was the last surviving member, and it just kind of like all of them together.
Yeah.
That Dave Maynard and all of them.
Hey guys,
it was a real privilege working not only with him, but that whole crew and the place at BZ. Jim, you know the feeling. You were there.
Yeah, I
Guys,
missed all. I mean, I listened to them all, and all that list you just read. You just
Yeah.
said they were all great jocks.
Yeah, they
Can
sure
I tell
were.
you? Can I tell you this? That the jocks you just mentioned were all on BZ. I used to live in Fitchburg, 50 miles west, and listen to BZ all the time. They put out a movie, as you recall, or may not recall. They put out a movie, and to this day, because I'm a car nut, to this day I can remember it. It started with an Olds 98, the back quarter panel, had that big, long, stretchy look, and I thought, what a way to make a living! This has got to be it.
Well, Dick Summer,
Sandy, also,
Oh, Dick Summer passed away. He was a good friend. So I was at that yesterday, and
Clark, your mic is on.
just watching and waiting. That's all I can do. The Zion contacted me and said,
He has no idea.
for the AM.
I think you can shut it off as moderator.
Registered in your cache.
I think you can shut it off as moderator.
You can mute him
really?
from whoever the host is can mute him.
Yeah, Steve, you can mute him.
Anyway,
Okay.
Also,
hang on.
Sandy,
Let's
you
all
were
talk,
talking.
so-
You were Sandy. You were talking about Fitchburg. I used to listen to all those guys when I was up at WEIM in Fitchburg.
Oh, you worked at EIM.
Oh boy! Oh yes, I worked in Fitchburg. That was my second radio station.
I worked there too.
Night quality radio.
Night
I
quality.
worked there
Norman
too.
Knight. Norman Knight.
Beautiful.
All right.
After 3
It
years,
sounds like-
Steve finally learns how to do this.
God, it sounds like
Hey, you're
Sounded like
talking
the
with somebody who
podcast-
had a first phone. You know what I mean?
yeah, it sounded like a podcast. One flew over the cuckoo's nest for a while
Oh
there.
God. Oh God.
You know, Steve, a couple things about Dick Summer. He used to do the overnight. We all know that, but he also had this incredible Sunday night show called Subway, where he played all these progressive rock tracks and local bands. And obviously today that show would be sponsored by We Know Who. And they also, about Dick Summer, he became a great program director at WMEX right after BZ, and he really made RKO kind of stand up and say, what's going on here? Because he was playing longer tracks, he was playing album tracks, and RKO, he really kind of forced their hand a lot. But he made MEX a really great station when he went there, like in the late 60s or 70s.
He was the predecessor to John Garabedian there at MEX, and John was the only guy that beat RKO in with one book. And then Mac Richmond died, and that was the end of MEX.
You know, the only problem with MEX, having worked there for a little bit, is that they had an incredible signal north and east, which means we had regular listeners in England, but they couldn't hear us in Framingham.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Broadcasting to the fishes.
Exactly.
Also,
Well,
they had a terrible audio chain, Jim. You know, they had old men engineers there that just couldn't fathom having to compress the microphone separately than the music and things like that. They were really behind the times.
Yeah,
Did you know that Dick Summer was also a certified hypnotherapist?
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Which is very good if you're, want to build your audience. You will listen to this show.
Because I think probably the worst station in Boston with a signal was not so much MEX, but WHDH, which was really kind of an embarrassment because they were 50,000 watts. And at night, you couldn't get them west of Framingham. It was just unbelievable. 50,000 watts. And Framingham is not that far out of Boston by any means.
No.
Bob, but MEX really was pathetic at night.
Oh,
They really were.
no doubt. I mean, I was up and down the coast. That's what Arnie Ginsberg sold on his show at night. It was up and down the New England coast, all the way up through Maine and beyond, and down through south of Boston.
Well, as a kid with MEX signal so bad, I just tweaked the dial. I'd get 1520, I'd get 1540.
Yeah, that's right.
KBW and PTR, so I could listen to them all just by one small tweak.
Yeah.
So, maybe that was an advantage having that bad signal. You got to listen to all those other stations too.
Yeah, unless you were on MEX,
Mm-hmm.
like me.
I still can't believe they pulled PTR down. It's not there anymore.
No.
Is the whole building gone, or
Yeah,
is the whole building gone?
I don't know if the building's gone, but the towers are gone. They turned the license in, It had an amazing signal east and north.
Yeah. Because I remember
Somebody told me they tore down the BZ building on 1170 Soldiers Field Road. Is that correct?
I
That
think they
building,
expanded it. I thought they were keeping the building and television was taking the whole thing.
I don't know. Jack, you're in Boston. Do you know anything about that?
I'll take a ride by and I'll let you know next week.
Our man on the spot.
Hey, is it true that when you turn in an AM license now, the FCC will not let somebody else reapply for it, that license is then dead? Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know.
Tracy, I see you shaking your head.
I think you're correct on that.
Man, that's pathetic.
That's just AM though.
Yeah, it's just, so what? I mean,
Well, the FCC wants to get rid of all the AM
Yeah,
signals.
that's the whole
AM
objective
band,
there.
yeah.
That way they get around the need for a congressional act.
I could hear PTR in southeastern Massachusetts growing up.
I could too.
In New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm. They had a great signal. I got them in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a great signal.
And KBW, it didn't
Great
quit
signal.
either.
Another one, yeah.
Wow.
I used to listen to
They're
Sandy all the
directional,
time.
right? KBW was directional.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me. I know that PTR was. Wow. You know, the building was in Guilderland, and literally you couldn't hear the damn signal across the street. It was such a, it just dropped. You know, when you went south and when you went west, the signal was gone, which meant that a lot of their potential audience was gone at PTR. You know, I mean, it was like hitting your head against the wall too. The guy who owned it when I was there was a guy named Bill Rust.
I remember him. Yeah.
Rust Communications.
Oh man, you had to fight him for a penny. You know, the guy was just tight. I mean, it was his building, it was his transmitter, he owned it, and I think he came up through engineering, so he just had a different feeling about radio than a lot of the people. Like I was in Programmated Mornings here, and I just it was just a no-win situation.
When I met you there briefly, remember that we were in an extension. The building was kind of extended over for the FM side, for FLY. I think they eventually got rid of that, from what I hear.
Yeah.
Bill Rust owned a station in Richmond, Virginia, WRNL, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
And I drove down there for a job interview with him, and he never showed up.
Oh.
I
He
drove
also
from
owned
New York,
WKBR when I don't know when Pete Salant was working there, the KBR in Manchester, New Hampshire, when Dick McDonough and Pete Salant had worked there. But he might have already sold. I think he'd already sold it to Ralph.
Did he own KBR? I didn't realize
he's
that.
the R in KBR, I believe.
I didn't know that. I know Jack Casey worked there when I was there too, and Charlie Shue.
Shue.
Chuck Barton worked there. Terry Woods worked there.
Yep.
Well, you can thank Bill Rust for inventing the remote transmitter reading device.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Rustcraft, is that his company?
No,
Rustco. I think it was Rustco, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't Rustcraft. That was a different outfit.
Yeah.
That might be boats or something. I don't know.
I still have a bunch of that old Rust stuff that was that's up in the attic at WHYN's transmitter site.
With the dial?
Hey, Chris,
rotary dial?
Quick question for you, Chris. It was asked while you were muted if the BZ building still exists on Soldiers Field Road and all that stuff.
I'm not sure. I know they took the tower down because I've got some hardware from it in my collection of junk here in my studio, but I don't know about the building. I know that there's plans to move TV, and then the building will be demolished in favor of I think it's an apartment block.
Oh, another one.
Yeah.
You need more of those around here.
Yeah, so they can charge $5,000 a month for them. I'm friends with one of the engineers over at 4, Dave Goldstein, and he's saying that things are progressing as far as their move. So I imagine the building's not long for the world.
The tower in the parking lot is what you're talking about. They took that down.
Yeah,
Wow.
Jim. They took that down gosh, they took that down maybe 18 months, 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yep. I've got
Is
pictures
that
of that somewhere.
hotel motel right down the street still there? I spent some
That I
time there
don't
too.
know.
Hotel motel.
Yeah, the no-tell motel. No, I'm not 100% sure about that.
There used to be a Howard Johnson's
Was
right
it-
next to BZ. Back in
I wouldn't say it was a cheap hotel. It was Hotel 5.
Unbelievable. Hey,
I'm gonna have to run.
all right, John.
But before I do, Sandy Beach was. I was hoping that there was time for me to jump in with Sandy when he was talking about being a car buff. I've got a little radio car story I'd like to tell you, and then I've got to go because I have a golf game. In 1965-ish, 64, when I first started at WEIR in Weirton, West Virginia, I had a 1957 Pontiac convertible it was half primer and half rust. And speaking of rust, and a torn rag top. And the general manager, Dan Stegani, told me, don't park that in front of the station. Park it in the alley behind the station because we don't want to convey to our citizens who pass by here that we're that cheap, as it were. So fast forward now to 1978. My career has advanced. I go to Kansas City. Part of my compensation package was a 1978 Lincoln Mark III. General manager calls me in and says, I don't want you parking that thing in front of the station. He said, park it behind the station. We don't want to convey to the passersby that we're that affluent.
You know, that's not a crazy point, because I know that when I owned the business with Barry, and I was very careful about the cars I owned, because I didn't want to pull into the parking lot with an XKE or a Mercedes Benz and then have everybody say, okay, so that's why I didn't get the 28% raise this year. You know, and the same point, of course, when you're making client calls, they would look and they would say, I had someone even comment one time about being pitched by somebody who pulled up in, I think it was probably back then, a Lamborghini, which was crazy. You didn't even have them then. And he said, I know why their prices are high. How the hell else is he going to pay for the gas for that car, much less buy the car? But it's true.
Yeah, my dad was a salesman, and he always wanted to get a Cadillac, but he knew that if he pulled up to his customer's store, and they saw him hopping out of a Cadillac, that they would think, this guy doesn't need my business. And so he always drove Oldsmobiles. Eventually, he said, "The hell with it, I'm getting a Cadillac." But
conversely, my dad was a lawyer, and he always had to have a nice car because he wanted the people to believe he was that good.
Doing well.
You know?
So at
you don't want to hire
DRC,
a guy who's-
you mentioned Dick Corson. Dick Corson always had a Cadillac. And Steve Farquhar probably remembers this. And he had this Cadillac, and they always made sure that somebody would take it around to the car wash. This is where on Blue Hills Avenue, car wash. And there was a guy named Joey at the car wash. And Joey at the car wash was like, Corson would pull up, and actually Joey would come to the station, get Corson's car, bring it over, detail it, wash it. I'm talking about every week he did this. And then one day, and we had a trade up at a place called, it was a ski retailer up in Vernon. And Corson calls me in one day. I was a sales manager, and he says, listen, I need you to do something for me. I said, sure, what do you need, Dick? He says, we got a trade up at Ski Lodge, whatever it was. He said, yeah, I got to take care of Joey at the car wash. I said, take care of Joey at the car wash. He says, yeah, I want to get him. I'm sending him up to ski up at Killington or something, but I want to get him some skis and stuff. Can you go up there and get him, pick up a gift card or something for him? So this is the guy who washed Corson's car.
Hey guys, we'll see you. See you next
Take
time.
care, John.
Take care.
Yeah, 750 was a rough place. I walked out of there one day and my 240Z was gone at midnight. I was with Otis. I said, Otis, don't leave yet. I think I need a ride home.
I had one of those in the early days.
That was stolen.
Yeah, that was a beautiful
when
car.
I was at PLI.
Yeah, I had one in I think it was 1970. or 71 that I had. It was a great car.
I had
Funny
an orange.
story. I bought the car. I think this was like the first year that they were out. 240Z.
I remember your car.
Yeah,
Bob.
it was really nifty. But when I pulled it off the parking lot at Walsh, where I bought it, I went probably about maybe 100 feet down the road, and the right front wheel fell off.
Minor problem.
It would be a problem. They had to haul it back and put it on. But I had the car forever. Matter of fact, I had it when I drove down here to come to work in Philly, and it wouldn't pass an inspection. Going through the rough winters up in New England, there was so much rust on the side, and in the front, the front fender was flapping. I'd say, we can't pass this inspection down here. In New England, you could get away with it because they understood. Down in Philly, we don't put that much sand up on the road because sometimes we don't really get that much snow down here compared to, what you get up there. Nonetheless, I had to buy a new car, but Walsh, yeah, that's right. I got it. Are they still around?
Jim Walsh a bad guy.
Yeah, are they still around?
No, long gone.
I drove by their dealership the other day. They're gone.
Was the Z
He's
an
a tough
orange
guy to
color?
deal with. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
he had great jingles. Please, Mr. Balch, please.
Yep. Doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And the late Bob Michaels did a parody version of the Balch jingle that I had on a cart. If I hadn't, well, if I gave Tracy my box of cards, then he might still have it. But
they're in the other room. I'll take a look for later, Lee.
Yeah, if there's a Balch jingle, listen to it. There was one line that just stands out to me was this: Mr. Balch would throw up upon your upholstery.
Well, I don't know if a lot of guys know this, but Otis used to work on cars on the side, and I had him tune up my 240Z one day, and I was going from Agawam down to the station, and that car
Otis Engineering.
Yep,
That was
and
his
that car
company.
flew. It basically even touched the ground. But when I got
Route
home,
57 was a great test pad, wasn't it?
Yep, I could barely get it back to Springfield because it was chugging along, and the guy came in and he says, "Who worked on this car?" And I said, "A friend of mine." He says he put racing parts in there.
Oh God!
So it was good to run for about 20 miles and then back. Yeah.
In Florida, he had a business on the side. It was called Foreplay, and I think Ron will attest to the fact. Didn't they have like a sticker on the toilet in the men's room that said something about
20 years? That sticker's probably still there. Yes. A little round sticker, Otis Engineering.
Yep.
On the yes, Steve. I remember that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee, you mentioned Bob Michaels. Is that the Bob Michaels, the newsman from ELI and NHC in New Haven?
Absolutely.
He was my newsman. What a great guy. I love that guy.
Yeah, he was the when POP changed format from Top 40 to All News. He and Dominique Avery were the two morning lead morning anchors, and then eventually it was Bob and Joanne Nesty.
He was a little bit older than me, and I was in college, and I just thought he was a hell of a guy. I loved him.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah, Sandy had to jump off. He was going to physical therapy, but he's got quite a bit more that he would like to share with us. So we're going to try to get him on within the next couple of weeks. But he did have like a 10:30 physical therapy appointment he had to get to. And I know Bob Marks does something with a trainer. I remember it was a $4,000 investment if you wanted a 240Z, as I recall. And Dick called. You said you had one of the orange ones?
Dick left.
Oh, he did leave. Yeah, oh my gosh. And my late wife, Kelly, talked her mom, who was a real estate agent, into buying one of those 240Zs. And her sister would ride in the front seat, and she convinced her that she could ride in that little hatchback. And that's how they were able to get one of those cars. But oh yeah, that was
the funny thing, Steve, those went up in value. I remember getting a call one day at the station from my wife. She's like, "We just got an insurance check for the car." I said, "Okay." She goes, "It's like $300-400 more than we paid for it." She goes, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to go buy a 280."
Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Radio Friends Again. God, what a blast. Special thanks to Sandy Beach for spending some time with us. And of course, thoughts and prayers go out to Dick Summer. It's just a huge loss, and you know, you feel those hits. I can just imagine though, he's probably doing a lot of voiceover already up at those pearly gates with WGOD. I'm sure they put him to work right away. And again, please keep in mind, if you have any, send this to Russ Oasis, anybody out there that can help spread the word about the Broadcasters Foundation of America for some of the guys that might be going through some tough times financially or physically or whatever. We like to support that as much as we can. So look up the Broadcasters Foundation of America, and anything really is appreciated. So thank you very much. All right, I'm gonna knock this thing down now, and then the stuff that people won't get to hear is all smut and gossip. But usually Dave would edit all of that out, anyways. So I'm Steve Parker for Radio Friends again, and we will catch you next time on Radio Friends again. Thanks, guys.
Your friend has got a lot to share.